everybody, Dr. Chris, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine physician. And today I'm talking about weightlifting injuries, because you know, weightlifting can be dangerous. I don't want you to think for a second that I do not condone lifting weights, because I think that everybody should strength train. However, it is possible that when lifting a lot of weight or when the lifter is inexperienced, that injuries can occur. As always, I'm going to play some video clips of some injuries that have occurred in the weight room or when lifting weights. We're going to check out the injuries and then I'm going to discuss and describe them for your education.
Oh no! Oh yeah!
So in this first video clip, we have a strong man who is attempting to lift an Atlas stone. Now, Atlas stones can be of various sizes and of various weights. Depending on the diameter, they can weigh as much as 586 pounds. Yes, you heard me correctly, 586 pounds. That's an awful lot. So, at any rate, we have a strong man here attempting to lift the Atlas stone. So he gets under it, he's got a good squat, that's awesome, he's got a good grip, he has it up, boom! He actually got under it, he gripped it very well, lifted it to the ledge and almost had it up on top of the ledge. That's amazing given the weight of the stone. However, as he was teetering on the edge of the ledge, just before pushing it forward, he suffered an injury to his left knee. So as he has the Atlas stone on the ledge and he's attempting to push it over onto the flat surface, we can see that his right leg slips out from behind him and he starts to lose his balance. As he falls backward and the stone falls back towards the ground, he is unable to move his left leg in time and he suffers a valgus twisting injury to his left knee. We can see here that he has suffered not only a valgus injury to his left knee, but we note that his knee is also in external rotation as he falls backwards. So it is very likely that he has suffered a significant ligamentous injury of the knee. Given the magnitude of the weights involved and the severity of this injury, it is more than likely that he has suffered at least a knee dislocation. And this is the term that we use to describe a multiligamentous injury of the knee. In other words, he has probably injured more than one, if not all, or several of the ligaments in his knee. Because there is an element of crushing that is involved, he may have also suffered a fracture at the level of the knee. And this would either be a fracture of the femoral condyles, which are the end of the femur or the thigh bone, or an injury of the tibial plateau, which is the top of the tibia or the shin bone. But either way, this guy is going to have some problems and he is going to be seeing an orthopedic surgeon. So for this next one, it appears that we are at a weightlifting competition, and here we have the bench press set up. And we have a competitor who is on the bench preparing for his lift. And I can't tell you exactly how much weight is on the bar, but I can tell you it's a lot. And if I had to guess, I would say that this is probably well over 600, 700 pounds. So he sets himself up on the bar and we can see that he has a weightlifting belt to provide some bracing for his core. And we also see that he has his wrists wrapped. So it looks like he's well prepared for this lift. We can see that he can lift it off the rack no problem. So it appears that he is accustomed to lifting this sort of weight, and he is able to control the bar after his initial lift. As he slowly starts to descend, we see that his left forearm basically breaks at the mid shaft and it bends backwards. So he no longer has control of the weight with his left hand. And we can tell immediately by the appearance of his forearm that he has suffered a both bones forearm fracture. In other words, he has fractured both the radius and the ulna of his left forearm. Given that he is an adult and that he has no more years of growth remaining, this is an injury that will require operative fixation. Were he to have been a teenager who still had growth remaining, then there is a possibility that this injury could just be treated in a cast and would not require surgery. However, as an adult, it is important that we reduce this fracture anatomically. And basically that just means that when we reduce this fracture, the ends have to match up 100%. The only way that we can do this as an adult is if we perform an operation. So therefore, we will need to make formal incisions and we'll need to fix both bones of the forearm with plate and screw fixation. Now, if I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. Bones are great in compression, but they suck in rotation, and they're not so good in tension either. And although you might say here, hey doc, his arm was in compression because the weight was directly over his arm, we can see here from the video that he had a slight angle back, and because of the angle, he then introduced an element of tension and his forearm was just not having it. All right, so we have another one here with the bench press, and this is a less formal situation. This just looks to be two guys in the gym trying to lift a lot of weight. I would assume that they had done this weight before because this looks to be like a lot of weight. If those are 45, yeah, I'd say that this is close to 315, maybe it's 305. So this is a relatively healthy bench. This is more than most people can bench. Guy has it set up on the rack, so let's see what happens. He gets a spot, a nice lift. Here he has a problem. Even before he starts to drop the weight down or control the weight down to his chest, he loses grip of the bar and the bar basically free falls from his outstretched hands onto his chest. And you can see just the amount of impact or the amount of force that this weight hits his chest with. Because if you look at the slow-mo replay, you can see that his chest basically gets compressed to about 1/2 of its normal thickness. We can also see that as the bar comes down, both shoulders get forced into external rotation and the bar starts to roll down towards his neck. Now, we don't get to see the aftermath, so we're not sure exactly what happens, but we can see that the spotter immediately starts to grab for the weight. So I would assume that the spotter was able to stop the weight from rolling further into his head and neck. Now, I can't say exactly what injuries that he may have suffered here. Given that your thoracic cage is somewhat mobile as a result of it being made up of both bone and cartilage, it is able to accept some degree of compression without injury occurring. However, when the compression occurs with this degree of speed and intensity, I would venture to guess that more than likely this weightlifter has suffered at least one, if not several, rib fractures. In addition, he may have also suffered lung contusions as a result of the rapid compression of his thoracic cage. Finally, as both shoulders were forced into external rotation as the weight fell, it is possible that he may have also injured his shoulders, and he may have suffered either labral or rotator cuff injuries of his shoulders. All right, so let's move to the next one. Let's see what we got here. We seem to have a lot of bench. So again, we have a guy here, appears to be at a competition, and he appears to be lifting a lot of weight. I would venture to guess that we're looking at about 800 pounds here because I think there are at least 8 plates aside. He manages to successfully lift this bench press. So what's the problem? Well, when he sits up, we can see and when you look at his eyes as he sits up, you can see that there is blood streaming from both of his eye sockets. But if we think about this for a second, then we can start to understand why. In order to provide the most stable platform from which to press this weight, he has to hold his breath, doing what we call the VALSALVA maneuver, which will allow him to keep his chest and his abdomen as rigid as possible. As a result of the increased pressure in the skull, we can see that some of the smaller blood vessels in the eyes have ruptured and started to bleed into the eyes and out of the eyes. Out of the eyes.
Okay.
And to be honest, that's the first time that I've seen that. Well, at least with weightlifting. That's a lot of pressure. And remember, it's not that I think weightlifting is a bad idea, because as I said before, I think that everybody should be engaging in resistance training. However, when we're lifting really heavy weights, we need to make sure that we use every safety precaution available to make sure that we minimize the chance of injuries when performing these activities. So there you have it. Today I've been reacting to weightlifting injuries. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when we post new content. If you are a returning member of the Intern Army, be sure to give this video a like and share it with somebody that you know. And if you know somebody who lifts weights, be sure to send this video along to them. And as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho.
The flesh wound.